All right, let's get this party started. Welcome everyone to day one of the Entrepreneur Summit on Entrepreneur Mindset Decoded. This first session is how you think about doing business, is how you end up doing business. I am Lauren Amos. I am the managing director of the Bronzeville Incubator and the director of the Illinois SBDC that lives here at the incubator. We're super excited for this week of awesome conversations. Note that I said conversations. So outside of the slide that you see on the screen right now, which is about to go away, there will be no presentations. The goal here is for us to have this open, honest, real conversations throughout the course of the week, that are centered on business and the best way to do so. And again, they're all mindset driven. So this isn't your typical kind of business plan, how to, etc. conversation. So this entire week of conversations is hosted by us, the Bill Bronzeville team, as well as the team at the Greater Englewood CDC. So we're super excited about that. Just a note that all sessions will be recorded. And we're going to share the recording once it is over. So in case you miss anything, because there's going to be a lot of free game, I'm sure, over the next 5 days. So with that, I'm going to actually stop sharing the screen so that you get kind of the full breath, be able to see the lovely folks that have been generous enough to give their time to us. Couple of housekeeping things. So if you look at your bottom panel, you'll see there is a Q&A little button. If you have any questions throughout the conversation, drop them in there, please, not in the chat. And we will get to questions. We're going to hold all questions to the end. And what we can get to, we will. Any questions that are left unanswered, when we send the post-event wrap-up email, we'll answer all questions in there, okay? Also, fun thing to know, if you registered before Saturday, you would have received an email on Saturday that gave you a heads up that during this entire week of discussions, we will be picking attendees a bit at random, to be honest with you, for opportunities to win some really, really great things that we think will be some great tools and assets for you as you're working on and building your business or growing your business. One of those things will be professional headshots. It's something that you don't know you need until someone asks you for your headshot and you'd be like, look, I see the nodding, right? I mean, look, full disclosure, I don't have mine done, so I'll be getting mine done too. But opportunity for professional headshots. There will be opportunity for a 3-day work pass here at the Bronzeville Incubator. If you've ever been here, it's a lovely sun-filled office to work from. So conference room and the like, so it'll be a great opportunity to have maybe a meeting with someone or take care of some business. And then lastly, custom branded t-shirts. So as you are starting with your business, as you can see, Miss Nicole Jordan has her logo on her shirt. I spy it in the corner, right? So some branded merchandise. Now this is not for kickoff of Hot Girl Summer or Hot Boy Summer. Let's just be clear. Like, this is for your business, but to be able to get some of your business branded merchandise done. So just stay tuned for that. We will announce the winners, quote unquote, of these tools at the conclusion of the full week. So enough of that. That's all the housekeeping stuff. We're going to do a quick round of intros with the panelists. I know you would have seen their bios, and many of these folks just because they are splashy and you see them in the news and stuff like that. But we'll do a quick round of bios. Then we're going to do a couple of poll questions just to get a feel for who's in the room, and then jump into just some good conversation. So if I start with who's in my upper left, Miss Stephanie Hart, you give the people a good afternoon and who you are. There you go.
Hey, good morning. I'm Stephanie Hart, founder of Brown Sugar Bakery, and now to include Brown Sugar Bakery and Confections. And I'm an entrepreneur. Anyone know?
Okay. So to break up the Nicoles, I'm gonna go Nicole Jordan first.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Jordan Reed, and I am the owner of Nichole Catering. We are a full-service catering company here in the city of Chicago, and we've been in business for 5 years. And prior to that, I had another life, a 20-year career, doing a whole lot of other things, slaying corporate dragons, and then became an entrepreneur full-time in 2016.
Awesome, awesome. The sole gentleman of the group.
Yeah, I thought it was another one in here, but Marcus Elliston, probably better known as Merk Murphy, just a pseudo I've picked up over the years. Founder of Designers, a marketing branding agency. Majority of our clients include clothing lines and musicians, and also co-founder of Complex 2010 recording studio, located in the South Loop. We're entering our 11th year of existence, and that's about it.
Thank you, sir. And Miss Nicole Jackson.
Hi, Nicole Jackson, owner of Bronzeville Wingz, located at 4300 South Michigan in the historic Bronzeville community. I've been here for about 2 years now. I am a native and current resident of the Bronzeville community, but a former educator for over 20 years and now living 100% the entrepreneur life.
Awesome. Thank you. So when you signed up, you would have seen some verbiage talking about that the basis of this conversation is going to be a book called The E-Myth, right? So The E-Myth is a book that I actually didn't realize until I was actually getting ready for this is 30 years old. It's not a new book, right? It's been, I was like, oh, this is not new at all. It is about 30 years old. It was re-released in the mid 90s. So even the new version is still, you know, I was in grammar school, I guess. But it it is a book that talks about, so Eve, you know, for entrepreneur, obviously, the myth behind entrepreneurship. And it breaks down some key kind of tenets or things to think about in terms of being an entrepreneur. What does that really mean? What does owning your own business really mean? So I'm going to talk through a couple of those just kind of key tenets, and we're going to use that to guide the relationship, the conversation itself. So the first concept that, you know, is introduced in it is that each business owner really should embody 3 different people, right? So there's the entrepreneur, there's the manager, and there's a technician. And the entrepreneur, which, you know, everyone, when they say they own their own business, is like, I'm an entrepreneur. And the way that this defines entrepreneur is really the visionary, the innovator, the person that is constantly living in the future, thinking of the new problems to be solved, a new way of doing things, right? The manager, which I very much so admittedly realize I am probably 85% manager, is the pragmatist. They're the one who, you know, sets order, that does the planning, that dots your I's and cross your T's, if you will. And then there's the technician. That's your skills, you know, the skillsman, the tradesman, that's the doer. And, you know, it says that small business owners are typically 70% technician, 20% manager, and 10% entrepreneur. You know, everybody is going to be different, but to be a truly successful business owner, you should be, you know, a nice, well-balanced mixture of them all. So, you know, it says where the technician or the entrepreneur craves control, the manager craves order, and the technician just really wants to get the job done, right? And so in talking about this, they say how, you know, most businesses are started from what they call an entrepreneurial seizure, right? That day at work or days where you're ready to flip the desk and you're like, you know what, forget this. I know this stuff. I could do this for myself. I'm the best, whatever, accountant that there is here. So I'm going to be an accountant, or something completely different, right? I'm an accountant, but I'm the best pie baker that I know. So I'm going to open up a pie shop. That's typically what spurs people to go into business. And what you find when you get in business is that you don't, if you are the best pie baker that you know, and so you're going to open a bakery, you don't actually spend a whole lot of time baking pies if you're going to be truly successful in your business, right? So, you know, that's one of the kind of central tenets and kind of foundations of the book. And so I just kind of want to open it to the floor in terms of, how do you self-identify, right? What's the area, be it in the beginning when you started, or now after you've been in your journey some time, how would you say you identify in terms of entrepreneur, manager, technician, and what's the area that you struggle the most to gain more of?
I'll jump in. Good afternoon again, everyone. For me, it was a little bit of a mixed bag. However, you know, I think I was about 40% entrepreneur. And then moving on, then the rest of that was pretty much technician, with probably like 5 to 10% management in there for good measure. I had the vision, but I'm a technician at heart. I mean, I have the other qualities, but I'm definitely a technician at heart. So jumping in, you know, I did, you know, see certain things, but you know, I was in my business from day one. So that technician was dominant, and had a stronghold, had a vice grip on me. Evolving, you know, had to learn some hard lessons to back myself out of the technician mode, which is still a work in progress, and really embrace the entrepreneur and somewhat of the manager, but particularly the entrepreneur, because you know, thinking about that, you know, what really a true entrepreneur is, I'm still evolving. But you know, right now, I'm probably a third at this point, but looking to shift that more in the entrepreneur's favor.
And I'll follow behind my namesake. So I identify largely with the manager because my role as a former principal, that's what I did. I managed a lot of the day-to-day operations, followed by the visionary. After year one, I became more of the entrepreneur, saying, okay, where is this going? What am I doing with this? I didn't get into, you know, running a chicken restaurant, you know, with all the student debt to not make any money. So where is this going to take me? And the least would have been the technician, because I was an educator by trade. You know, people always say, oh, you love cooking. No, I just saw something that I really liked, and I had experience with as a customer, and I felt like, okay, this is something I believe in, and this is something that I could do and I want to grow in, when I decided to step away from education and embrace my entrepreneurial spirit. So I would say right now I'm operating in all 3 capacities, but I want to be more the entrepreneur in this year to come.
I'll say, oh, sorry about that, Stephanie.
Nope, go ahead, Merk.
All right, man, I'm still suffering. I came in it an extreme, like I would say 80% entrepreneur, 14% technician, and 1% manager. So that was always a huge opportunity area for me, frankly, because I think, you know, with most people leaving the workforce, we always see the opportunity areas in our job, but not necessarily, we always see what our job could be doing better, but not necessarily what they're doing right. So, you know, and I was in the workforce for some time, and that same story Lauren just told, just flip up, leave out. And the last time I did that was close to like 14 years ago. And man, it was a rude awakening waiting outside that door for me. And you know, thinking that, you know, this skill that I have is enough to you know, keep a business or keep any infrastructure afloat, which it clearly wasn't. So you know, just the trenches of entrepreneurship force you to you know, kind of even your hand a little bit. And, you know, the managerial process is something that I'm still working on. And I think that, you know, just learning more about it and, you know, just through the journey of being a technician and, you know, that's probably the most fun part, the technician aspect. And the entrepreneurial stuff, I couldn't avoid it if I wanted to, but the biggest opportunity area within me still is, you know, a managerial aspect. So that's just for anybody out there that think that, you know, you can still do it and, you know, not necessarily be, I guess the best do it proficiently at all three. And I'm still a work in progress. Let me just say that.
So I would say, like Merk, we're all a work in progress for sure. I'm definitely an entrepreneur. I never threw a desk over. I always knew that whatever I was getting from somebody else, for the couple of times I had a regular job experience, I was just taken from them because I always knew I was going to do my own thing. And I started off early. So I've been making mistakes a long time. I think that for me, I am definitely identifying with entrepreneur and technician. I struggle with management and I am working on that. But I also would say one thing don't underestimate is the tech part, because the first line in the technician is doer. And to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be a doer. So it's great to be a visionary, but to have a vision and no action behind it, you're going to suffer. So I definitely think that those two are what I am. And hire a manager.
Look, fair enough. Fair enough. So, you know, everybody mentioned being a work in progress and, you know, working in your business. I heard someone mention that. There's certainly this thought of, you know, as far as being successful, your business being successful and growing, that you have to get to working on your business more than working in your business, right? And, you know, as we talk about being a technician and being the entrepreneur, and even the manager, what would you say, you know, where would you say you spend the most of your time in terms of what it is that you do to move your business forward, right? We just to kind of quote one of the things in the book, it says, you know, if your business depends on you, then you don't own a business, you have a job, right? and whether you flip the table or not, you know, part of that was doing so because you didn't want to have a job, right? And a really, really good business owner is there to create jobs for other people so that they can create other things, right? And move on, move forward. So, you know, one, where would you say, just to level set people, because as I mentioned with the baking the pies, right? People think that's where you're going to spend your time. Where would you say you spend the most of your time, and how do you say you are able to achieve as much or little of that balance of working on it versus in it?
Right now, well, you know, that was an evolution and it still is an evolution too. Initially, I think I spent a lot of time as the technician. That was the, you know, that was my dominant coming in. And then being the entrepreneur, but I really, you know, was knee deep in, the doing, even though I, started to, have team members and, do things with me as staff, I was really in the mix. Everything from, how I was the logistics, person. And so how we ran it down, recipes, how we got out the door, everything. I literally designed all of that. And so my people were executors, but I really was, really hamstrung as the architect. And that came from me, my former life being a project manager, but also really working with a lot of detail. So I did that until then, pre-pandemic, and being a tight grip in my business. I'm micromanaging, because I want every aspect to be, just so. But as we shifted and with the pandemic, it definitely had me pause on a whole lot of levels. And so, I really had to, reevaluate how I wanted this business to grow, because it wasn't going to grow with me running myself into the ground trying to get it all done. And so that has started to, I'm thinking and acting more in my entrepreneurial space, and a little bit of management there too, but really, fighting to get out of that technician. Like I have to, kind of smack myself up, if you will, to get out of my own way. So I'm really now focused on the bigger picture of my business and what that looks like. And, thinking, I don't want to do any of that. These are the things I need to do. I want to be a visionary. I'm not, I need to be able to have a life and have some quality of life, which was a challenge, serious challenge, and took a toll physically, mentally, all of the above. But really thinking as an entrepreneur, as someone who is creating jobs, creating a bigger purpose, a bigger vision, and how now people will, I staff, how I will, have this kind of perpetuate itself, and me not, have to hold up the pillars. So,
I would say I spend, in regards to spending, time in the job or on the job, I've had to make an assertive effort to spend time on the job, because I would find myself not leaving this place for weeks at a time, and you can become just engulfed, and Nichole was saying, it could really play a role on your psyche and make you you see a lot of entrepreneurs, and it ain't even no Hart. You see people who will leave the workspace and get out here in the field and get a couple years in and end up going back to the workspace, and that's not a bad thing, because it's tough out here, it really is. And the unspoken part about just the mental load of trying to work on something while being in it, it's a skill set that that's really a myth within itself. I think that to really flourish the way that we foresee our businesses flourishing, it's practically impossible. Even the best do it at best mediocrely. So I've in recent months been taking an assertive effort to not even be here, allow myself space to help create systems that could solve themselves. So and in return, I do feel a difference mentally, physically, because that it'll take its toll, man. You see a lot of entrepreneurs running around here with alopecia, all type of stuff, because it's your mind is working at a rate that it doesn't allow itself to sleep at times. So yeah, man, if you really care about yourself, you're gonna have to work on it more than in it.
And I concur with Mark on that. Right now, I spend every day, I work the restaurant, so it's a job. I'm here, it's a very small operation. So I'm here 5 days a week. I had to make a concerted effort to say, okay, how am I going to work on the business? And so I made the decision this year to go from 6 days of operations to 5 days, because I needed a day where I could literally dedicate to growing the business and focusing more on the vision and the entrepreneurship and the growth in terms of where I'm going. So that's been a challenge because with a day of closure, that's a day of loss of income and revenue. So it's been a challenge. My first year was spent strictly as technician, just learning every aspect of the business so that I could train someone else to be able to operate in that capacity. Now that we have a system in place and everything operates smoothly, it's easier to spend more time in the management role, but I'm still here working every single day. So it never ends. It's like when you leave here, you're going home and you're spending time on the finances, on the books, on, looking at other things and continuing to grow. So it's been a 7-day, 2.5 year process of trying to balance from moving from technician to manager, and now trying to move from manager into more of the entrepreneurship role. But I'm still in between that technician and manager most of the time, with the entrepreneur taking maybe 20% of that.
And Stephanie, just before you answer, yes, I want you to address that, but also after you address that, if you can also talk a little bit about systems. So for those who are not completely aware, was it at the end of last year, Stephanie acquired Cupid Candies, and a business went from, Stephanie can say, X size to Y size, right? So I wanted her to also touch on systems, because every person, Nicole, and Merk mentioned systems. And when you talk about, growing a business and going from being a solopreneur or a mom and pop operation to, having dozens of employees and various levers being pulled, that is only possible with systems in place, right? And it's something that whether or not you plan to grow your business to that size, that's how you should formulate your business, right? But I because Stephanie is living it, I would like her to also, kind of touch on that after she touched on the first part.
So for the first part, I'm going to say, when we talk about entrepreneurship, and for years I've been frustrated with really how people come to entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of advice. And the bottom line is, it depends on where you start. I started at the bottom. So, when you talk about bootstrapping, we didn't have boots. So I don't even know what that is. There ain't no boots. We got feet on the ground. Okay. So when I say that the technician is important, you can't get to visionary if you can't keep the doors open. So if you, depending on where you start, like if you start and you got hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in a business, then yes, you want to look at it this way. But for most of us, and I speak for those people who start a business from the ground, the bottom, or beneath the ground, because I used to not deal with certain things because my head was in the sand, staying focused on staying alive. I would say that, you got to deal with the fact that if you don't want to work 14 to 17 hours, 7 days a week, you might not want to do this unless you have the money to invest in it. And even with money to invest in it, if you don't know what you're doing, like I'll give you an example. I have a friend who lost their shirt opening up a salon. She had the money to open up a salon, but she didn't know the game of doing hair, right? And so the fact that she had a vision, but no technical skills, screwed her. And I'll move forward to Cupid. I was just talking to you right now. Right now, I'm escaping mom and pop. So the moves of escaping mom and pop, which most people would think, oh, that alleviates you. Now you're into being a real entrepreneur. In order to be a real entrepreneur, you're going to have to stay up on your tech game, because how do you know you're being advised correctly? Like now I need to go to Costa Rica, Africa, or something, and really learn about chocolate. I mean, yes, I'm making chocolates, and yes, I have recipes, but could somebody get me? Yeah, they could, because I don't know what happens to chocolate. I don't know the process, and I don't know how that process affects me. So it's important, as folks say, you have a job, you do have a job. And being an entrepreneur is a job, and you report to your business until you can get to the point where you can afford not to do that. You report to your business. You have a different type of job. And for those who think that you're going to get out here and you get to tell everybody what to do, no, not for years. Not for years. You work for everybody. You work for your employees because they get paid before you do. You work for the gas man, the light man, the electric man. You work for everybody. And unless you can handle that, like my father used to say, stay on the porch, like for real. Because it's not easy. It's not. There's so many easier ways to make money. And don't think that I haven't fantasized about it. My personality doesn't work. You know, I don't know what happened just there, but anyway, you know, you just really have to know who you are. So I, again, would say you definitely want to get to working on your business, and you're going to have to carve out time to do that along with everything else, right? So you might go to work and wash dishes and bake pies, and then you're going to have to go home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night and dedicate a certain amount of time to actually being an entrepreneur, looking at the vision and, you know, deciding what your business is going to do. But in the beginning stages, I'm going to tell you, you know who I see get licked the most? The people with vision, because you can talk about it, but this is about being about it. And I'm just being honest. I've been on the block a long time, and I've seen a lot of people go home. And the people that typically go home are the people that don't have the back to put in to standing in this long enough to sit back, period.
That's a whole word.
Yeah.
A whole
I'm gonna have to
word.
my fake tambourine here. Because that's 200% the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, go ahead.
I just
Go
want to
ahead.
say one more thing, and this will give you a prime example. So I'm not going to be picking on Nicole Jordan, but I'm going to pick on Nicole Jordan. And I watched Nichole be, you know, she had a good job, y'all. She had a good job, benefits. And we talked several times about her jumping off the porch. And, you know, literally, I'm so proud of her, because to go from comfort and wearing nice clothes to not being able to have time to basically comb your hair, like literally, you know, we talk about things as friends, like, girl, you're gonna have to come up with a uniform, and it's gonna need to include a hat, because girl, you're not gonna be able to comb your hair because you so busy, right? That going to the beauty shop and getting your hair done and all of that, them days is going to be over in the beginning. And everybody's not cut out for that. And Nichole will tell you that I respect her the most for being able to get to that job at 4:30 in the morning. See, that's what makes the cut. I'm going to tell you how you beat people. You beat them because you're there and they can't get up, or they had something else to do, or they had to get their nails done. You would be surprised what people let get in their way. And to do this, you just gotta, you can't let anything get in the way. So, you know, if you got a comfy job, before you flip over that desk, and I'm sure Merk will chime in, you might want to think about no benefits, your tooth gonna hurt, you don't have money to go to the doctor or time. This is the real stuff you got to go through, and nobody really talks about that. It seems like it's glamorous, and it's really not.
It's not. And Stephanie, I 100% love how you put that, because it is so true. You don't get to see your friends. You don't get to see family. You don't get to go on vacations. You, like you said, you don't get to do your hair done, your eyebrows. You probably see all these little straight hairs up here. I'm sorry, but this is what it is. It's just, it is. And I mean, Lauren, no, I spent the first year living off of my savings. I was not even able to pay myself, but yet I worked 7 days a week. That is a hard pill to swallow. To every penny that comes in, you have to give it to someone else, but you have to stay prayed up and just say, Lord, you know, this is for me. If this is what you have for me, keep me going. Give me that strength, because it takes something higher than yourself to be able to sustain. You cannot operate without meditation and prayer and get through this life. You have to be committed, because it is it's a challenge. It's a struggle. It's nothing glamorous about it. You see Stephanie on TV and all the money that she's getting, but like she said, her head, I love that her head was under, she was in the sand. Like, you know, that's a beautiful analogy just to present to people. So the beauty is not, you know, what you see on TV is what we're telling you now, all this hard work that you just pray will pay off, you know, and you don't know when.
Yeah. The word is unrelenting. You have to be unrelenting. Thank you, Stephanie, for the compliment. Yes, we have had many conversations, and all that you said is true, but you have to be unrelenting. Your technician is strong. It has to be strong. Your vision should be there, but as Stephanie said, the technician game's got to be. It's number one in the beginning. It really is true. And you know, to be able to, yes, be up, you got to do what everyone else will not do, so that you are forsaking a lot. Because this is a good hair day. I usually have on a scarf. And I did my hair especially just for you, so I wouldn't look like I was, you know, in the field today, because I still wear that scarf. But yes, and I am, you know, I'm up before everyone else, and I'm down after everyone else. And I know all of my peers here can say the same. But the word is, you have to be unrelenting, and on the days that it doesn't look like anything, I know my prayer was, Lord, I don't know what you got in store. I don't know if his phone is going to ring or what's coming up next, but I know you got something, because I ain't got nothing. And that was literally my prayer every day. I'm just doing, but you got something coming on the other side, and the phone would ring and someone would refer me, and I'm still in the trenches. But you have to have a spirit of no retreat. And the other thing I would say is, if you know, the one thing, even in the midst of going through these 5 years, hitting the pandemic, trying to regroup, figure out, re-envision, all of these things, the one thing I never ever thought about my business was that it was going to fail. I've never thought that ever about my business. Now, some things are looking real shaky on many a day, and I've cried tears. I've cried to Stephanie on numerous occasions and needed lots of hugs. But the thing I've never ever thought about my business is that there is no failure. There's no left, there's no right, there's no failure. But there's gonna be some bumpy roads. I might be falling off cliffs, but I'm gonna get patched up and I'm gonna keep it moving. So you have to have that kind of spirit. You have to have the will, because doing this can break you if you let it.
See, that part, that's that like black girl magic thing right there. Like, because I've believed I was gonna fail plenty of nights. I'm gonna be all the way honest with you. And whether I believed or I didn't believe, one thing that was always consistent is that I was right. If I believe I was gonna fail, I damn sure fail. and vice versa. So but when you speak about like Stephanie, like jumping off the porch and like the hardships that wait out here for you, and one of the things I kind of like to refer to is like how misleading momentum can be. Like, because sometimes you can get pushed into a successful wrath that can be a moment, and people would often mistake that moment for like normality. You know what I'm saying? Like you get out here, they sell a couple t-shirts, whatever it is they do, and it's like, man, this is a business. This is what I'm trying to do. And like, man, it's the thing about it, like the women have said, like this, it's every day. And I remember my journey, like hopping off the porch, like it was a rude awakening. Last job I had, I was doing fine there. I quit. I went home, drove home. My apartment was broken into. Sat there for like 2 or 3 hours. Like, forget it, I'm gonna go outside. Went outside, my car was stolen. So all three of these things happened in the same night. Ended up losing that apartment. You know, was in between places for a while. All type of like, you know. So I had the luxury of not having nowhere to go. So I had to be in the idea of the business. So like, it's a unique blessing in a way, you know. And at that time, it is hard to see it as a blessing. Like when you know you got your homies going on trips and doing this and doing that, and you coming up with, you know, you trying to figure out how to monetize your entrepreneurial theories. You know, it could be discouraging at times. You know what I mean? So like, and I understand the people who hop off the porch and get their feet in the water and be like, yo, who hiring, bro? I got to get the fuck out of this. Like, you know, so I get it. But like, you know, I guess just having blind faith, you know, taking what I was able to learn, you know, over the course of the years and not necessarily knowing what it was going to be, but knowing that, you know, if I took one step forward, you know what I'm saying, it was going to be something, some sort of win that was going to help push me further along. And that will come in the form of whether it been just friends or colleagues I've met over the years or just being an entrepreneur, man. You got to get that, like that motivation from the most unique places, man. Like you find yourself being like paying close attention to everything from the panhandlers you shake hands with to the commercials you watch to just the words people use when you all just like you trying to soak it up anywhere you can get it, literally anything you consume and like regurgitate it. And like one of my biggest things I take in is hip hop a lot, and I use that as like my Bible. And it's a De La Soul line that always stick out to me, which was everybody cools off from being hot, but it's about if you can handle being cold or not. And I know that I can handle being cold. So like, and I think that's what make like it's a level of fearlessness, I guess, because like knowing that I can look at something that like regardless of how much blind faith I have in it being successful, I know that even if it don't work, I ain't stopping. So it's a just a knowing that sometimes it's unexplainable. Some people can call it, you know, Allah or God or whatever you want to call it. It's an unknowing like relentlessness that you just like, man, I can't fathom it. Like it's just what I got to do. So some of us are, you know, some people are blessed with the skill sets, like, you know, Stephanie may have spoke of having like startup money. Like that's such a weird term to me. I didn't know what that was until I was in the streets for like 5-6 years. Like startup, like so people give you money and then you can start with that money. Like what the like I don't even notice that whole concept is just like. So you find yourself just, you know, find it like just try your best to find motivation and wherever you can find it, man, in the nooks and crannies of wherever you look. So and you know, of course it's not gonna be easy. Like in that first week, everybody is in the first, it's go have those windfalls, but just try to be prepared for the challenges, you know, for what you're gonna do with the when the lights go out. You know what you, hey man, you better have some candles on deck. You better, you know, you gotta know how to adapt to these circumstances and get up and keep going. And more importantly, just knowing how to tighten your belt and not being ashamed of your journey. I think that's what, you know, scares a lot of people back into or just out of entrepreneurship. You know, like it's either wins or lessons. And like I think that people too often look at those lessons as losses. And you know, whether it be just being stuck with some inventory or an event not going well or whatever it may be that you're working on that doesn't seem to come to fruition how you envision it. Like for me, that's when the games start. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it start there. It don't start at the mountaintop. Like it start 3 summers ago when you training and you messing up and you ain't got the wind to do it. So like, I think, there are certain personality traits that tend to benefit entrepreneurs, whether it being, having strong self-confidence, but not all of us are that. I ain't that all the time. You know what I'm saying? So, just noticing, the opportunity areas within yourself and figuring out ways to apply them, is something I would always strongly suggest.
I just want to chime in on the rap. So I'm a little ahead of the rap. I'm a little older, but I'm gonna tell you, when I got on the block in 75th, and I was an entrepreneur previous to this in a technology company downtown. And I'll be honest, when I came to 75th, I underestimated. I thought, oh, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna open up a business in my own community. I'm gonna sell them something they like, and yay. And I got knocked out, right? Just knocked out. Like everything I thought was incorrect. Okay. And I remember what would get me through is rap music. Like I started really listening to trap music, right? And I got motivated by it. Like I'm like Young Jeezy's biggest fan, right? For real, like literally, I sent him the keys to
Thug
my
Motivation 101 is
Thug
is
Motivation,
like
yes. I
that's
had to
gospel music
grind
right
it
there.
out with that. I'd be in my bakery listening to that by myself, mopping the floor, going, I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep going. Lupe Fiasco with, you see me now, but later I'm gonna be beaming, you know what I mean? I get a lot of that hate, all of that. It's so true. You gotta find some way to keep motivated. And it's a self-motivation, because it's nice when other people tell you something, but you got to believe it yourself. You got to feel your head. I heard Nichole say this: people do not underestimate. And if I could go back, I would be feeling my head every day. Now I'm a meditator. Now I'm into that. But it took years for me to get to this level of that. That's the game I would give now. You better read, feed your head constantly every day. Like I talk to myself constantly. And somebody put in the chat, I didn't read it all, but they asked about fear. You're going to be scared. You're going to have to stay on the front of your ride. Me and Nichole talk about it all the time. She's like, girl, what kind of day you have? I'm on the front of the ride. The roller coaster's at the top and I'm screaming, but we still going, right? We're not stopping. Like you said, Merk, but it's scary sometimes, and you got to work through your fear. Fear is part of the journey. You're going to be scared. Like I'm scared now. You don't think I was scared trying to do something completely new, just as brown sugar got settled. Now I'm getting ready to take on something new. But you got to work through your fear. That's something, that's a skill, and that motivation stuff helps you work through it.
And one thing I'll add is, which is actually words that my husband gave me when I was, on the brink some days. He said, he's like, well, I'm gonna give you the clean version. He's like, if your butt isn't clenching, you ain't doing it right. You need to feel it. And that's the sanitized version, but it's true. You got to. There's a T-shirt I wear. I bought from people are probably familiar with her, Megan McNeil, a wonderful singer here in the city of Chicago. And she sells a T-shirt. I'm plugging her slightly, but it says, do it afraid, because you're going to have to. You're going to do it in, because if you don't, then if you don't get it, it's going to get you. Whatever it is, if you don't get it, it will get you. It's either getting your work done on time, satisfying your client needs, paying the bills, talking to that accountant, finding out whatever's that piece of mail that came in the mail that you didn't expect, and it had something in it that you really weren't ready for. All of it. If you don't get it, it's going to get you. So you got to do it afraid. There's and handle that fear, but it's in here. But you got to push.
See, I told y'all, the reason I picked y'all was because, I was like, no, they're going to tell the people what they need to hear and the stuff that they're not going to want to hear, but they need to hear, right? And I knew that you'd be super open and honest. Just because I just being conscious of time, and there are a couple of questions that are in the Q&A that I actually do want to address now. One of the things that have been asked a couple of times is pandemic related, and Stephanie, you actually, both Stephanie and Nicole Jordan mentioned the pandemic. I want everyone to talk about the pandemic, not from the standpoint, we all know that it brought everything to a screeching halt and it's been a hot ghetto mess. Like that part we know, right? And I don't want to talk about how it's impacted your business from the standpoint of, what are the new measures that you have to put in place. That's BACP can have that conversation, but I want to talk about it from the standpoint of, one, what are the gaps that it exposed for you in your business, right? I know just from what I do, working, when all these things came up of like, apply for this, apply for that. A lot of folks, didn't have financial statements, didn't have, whatever the case may be, is no actual payroll, et cetera. And that exposed a gap in the system, right? So I want to talk about, one, what gaps did it expose, just so that people can be aware going into, I launched the poll earlier, and I'm not sure if you all saw the results, but we're kind of split evenly across the board in terms of not currently in business, but a year, in business, like 1 to 3 years and 5 years. So we kind of go the spectrum. It was kind of 20-some% across the board, but gaps so that people can learn from you in terms of that. And then what are some new approaches or some things that you're going to do differently in terms of how you approach your customer, how you approach your business, again, not from a COVID safety measure standpoint, but conceptually.
Ooh,
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
For me, right before the pandemic, I had been looking at a lot of things in my business. Like I need to really work through my systems more and to start to think about how I'm structured. How do I kind of take myself out of some of these equations, because I was creating a stopgap in my own business. I was the bump in the road because I'm trying to do everything all day. And so that was kind of in my head. But then when the pandemic hit, it just literally exposed everything that was not right. Or that was, I won't say not right, but that were the tender spots in my business. And for me, it was really a matter of, almost kind of thinking from ground zero. It just took, it was my reckoning in terms of having to evaluate the business, myself, what's going on, what plans that I did and didn't have in place, and that I was tired, literally tired. The stop was the pandemic has been a mixed bag, good, bad, and otherwise. But I have to say, it was somewhat of a blessing for me, because I think I probably would have been in the hospital had I kept going the way I was going. So, it being the hard stop forced me to not just look at my business, but really look at myself and think about, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? The why. And how I'm doing it, and how that, we don't know what we don't know at that time last year, right? But if this can happen, well, let me start thinking about some, what can I do different? Because, this is the wildest thing that can occur. Well, let me start thinking a little wildly about some things. And that's really still in progress for me. I've been really taking a lot of time, because things have happened and continue to, evolve in this process. But, I think the biggest thing was I really had to, it forced me to stop and take a look at the things that were the tender spots, the really, you know, I had the Band-Aid got pulled off, and I had to really look at the ugly truth of, you know, what was really happening in my business and the things that I, you know, kind of dealt with, but really didn't deal with the way they should have been. And so I had to forgive myself first in what I was doing or not doing. And, you know, really get through that, and then start to look at, okay, someone touched upon it earlier, you know, not having shame in your journey, not having shame in your journey, and really working out of that. It's like, man, I thought I was okay, but, you know, I'm real janky right now. And in order for me to get out of Jankyville, on top of a pandemic, I have to really reconcile some things. And so it gave me an opportunity to start to think about how I not rebuild in the face of the pandemic, but how I rebuild this business for sustainability, period.
Thanks, Nicole. I love that word, janky. I swear. that is like one of my words. So mine has been, when I tell you one of the hardest lessons learned, you go, and this is how, you know, how your parents be like, you too smart for your own good. This is what I learned starting a business. When I set up my business in 2018, I went to an attorney and I had to set up as a corporation. You don't have corporation money, you don't have employees, and guess what? That has killed me. I have not qualified for any funds for PPP because as a corporation, you have to have a board, you have to have employees who are being paid on a payroll. I told you I didn't pay myself at all, so now I don't qualify for anything because you don't have that whatever that sheet is on the form, because your corporation is it goes back and forth between your earnings and your personal. So you're not paying yourself, so you have no earnings. So therefore, you don't show that you've made any money. So it has been nothing but a nightmare. And Illinois is one of the few states that does not allow you to switch from a corporation to an LLC. It's a very difficult process, and it's a very costly process. So I'm stuck in corporation mode for right now. So when you're setting up your business, if you're a small entity, you should go LLC, because you can always file as an S Corp versus being an S Corp and not qualifying for anything because you're not operating as an S Corp. So that has been one of the hardest lessons for me, especially being in the restaurant field where there is an abundance of resources and monies that were going out. And you have to learn, well, you don't qualify because you didn't operate as a corporation. You know, you have one employee. You're basically a sole proprietor. You're running your business. So that was a very, very difficult and tough lesson to learn. And that was one of those, oh, I'm going to set this up. You know, I'm going to make sure this is set up the way it needs to be set up as I'm moving forward. But it was something that hurt me tremendously, and it's still impacting me as we're moving forward through this pandemic. So everything has been nothing but God's grace. Like Nicole said, I'd be like, okay, gas bill due, how many chicken wings we got to get out here today? You know, so it's all based on what we're doing in-house. There is no additional resources coming to you. And Lauren has already shared, we're not necessarily talking about, well, food costs is double. You know, chicken is double what it was last year. You can't double your costs to meet the needs, you know, of what the chicken is costing. So I can't charge my customers that double amount. That's just not realistic. So now you have to figure out strategic ways to be able to compensate for those increased costs and losses. So now you have to start looking at what can you add to the menu, or where can you take things away, or what's not working. So it's forced me to have to look at the details of what I'm selling, the number of quantities I'm selling, the cost of the sides and things of that nature. So you have to do a more in-depth look at every item and what every single thing costs. And that has been probably my biggest lesson with looking at, okay, this sauce is too expensive for me to make because I'm spending, you know, $30 a gallon on this seasoning. Well, I don't sell enough of it, but I'm selling sauce cups for 75 cents, but it's costing me 80 cents. So you get a real reality check. in terms of you like all of these flavors, it's cool, it's good, you want to give choice, but the money isn't there for it. So now you start looking at your bottom line numbers a little bit more strategically. So that was one of the biggest challenges and lessons learned for me, and what has impacted me the most during this pandemic.
I think that for me, the pandemic, the first uncovering of the pandemic is how absolutely I didn't have a relationship with a bank, which was just crazy. For years, I've been putting money into banks, and I give it to the teller and I go about my business, and I ain't had nobody's phone number, and I was looking for them folks when this happened, and nobody was, all the little cards I got, nobody ever emailed me back. So I think the first thing I know now is that every place that's got my money, I got somebody's phone number. You can't have my money and I can't call you, period. I moved my money because of that. Like, I just did not realize how important it could be. So the relationship that I didn't have with the bank was number one. I think the second thing that the pandemic showed me, or gave me an opportunity to see, is that it is time for me to be CEO. And I got an opportunity to CEO during the pandemic, and make the changes that have me operating now. Also, I had been playing around with what I needed to do about being online and my online presence. And man, that was real. The fact that many businesses, including mine, did not have an online presence was tricky during the pandemic. And you just gotta have it, like, be ahead of it, figure out what you're gonna be selling online. That's another thing that I think it revealed to me, is that I had more power than in retail. And just because people are coming in your front door, you got to figure out, or I had to figure out for me, how I could be sending products out the back door. And trickier than that is not at wholesale. How can I be someplace above wholesale and just a little bit below retail, so that I still have margin and I'm sending it out the back door, which means I'm saving the money of dealing with the customer. So, or dealing with the customer in person, if you will, because you still have a customer even online that you have to deal with, but it's in an automated way. The pandemic taught me the power of your cash register ringing for you at 2 in the morning when you're closed. For real, for real. And it was an extreme weakness for me. I could have been doing this a long time ago, like, just ridiculous. So those were the two things, the bank, the online, and then the opportunity to actually be CEO, to think different. The pandemic invigorated me in so many ways and brought out, like, all them gangster rap songs I listened to. That's what I was on during the pandemic, man. And Nichole, I want to talk to you, Miss Jackson, because I heard some stuff that don't sound right to me. And I don't care what your accountant, we getting ready to see if we can G up on that. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a call about what you cannot get, because there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's a fact. Miss Hart was just speaking about something that it stood out to me, just this, like, for lack of a better phrase, like this lack of understanding that we tend to have for a space. Like in her case, it may have been like, we all know brown sugar, like everybody in the world know, like, damn, should be the most viral place in the world, like the influence that the brand has locally. And like how at a point she may have been hesitant about going online. I think the pandemic taught me, like, the pandemic just served as like a highlighter, how it just came through and just exposed whatever red tape anybody had going on with anything. And in my case, it was something that most, my colleagues and, fellow people that look like me have is this almost this fear of paperwork in general. You know, like Negroes have a very distinct disdain for like black and white paper, all the trust that goes into it. Like we'd love to, and I know, like I'm sure women can testify, like we got commitment issues when it comes to any of that stuff. Like we would rather just fork it all over and put the trust in somebody and walk away. And to our disadvantage in most cases, especially when it comes to a business. For so long I operated as this like I was trying to hide from somebody. Like, what the fuck I got that? Like, I'm not like this discreet cash only, like, yo, this how we need to move. Like, yo, send me that. Like, here, I'm gonna run this over there. Like I'm bagging something up. And it wasn't that. I'm not selling anything illegal, but I'm operating as if I'm doing something illegal. So I think that the pandemic really, forced me to like pour, like into my business in a way where I had to develop it in ways that I just never had before. Like I've operated so long as an entrepreneur, yet I've never positioned my companies to like reap the benefits of being a company. Like I had these brands that were built with tons of brand recognition, and people know the name and they respect it. And there's this weird thing, especially like as a like anytime you got like a black man that exudes confidence in business, you have a bunch of people that just like, yo, he know what he talking about. Whole time, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, yo, there's this presumed knowledge just because you have confidence that you got knowledge. And like it was, and I'm able to like make my way over the years, but the pandemic really was like, you know what, Merk, like I know what I'm talking about. I just need to sit down and figure out ways to like sort of like the old Sanford and Son show when a black cop and a white cop come and you need that black cop to translate what the white cop was saying. So it's like, I bet, man, you didn't bought X amount of shirts, you didn't printed this, did that. Like, and I need to put this into a spreadsheet. So like, all right, cool. Let me just sit down and figure out saving receipts and just knowing like, oh, all this money I didn't spent is like, is this can count for something? Like there was such a, Miss George spoke about it early. Like I epitomized jankiness for quite a few years. I can be transparent about that. Like, and I ain't no shame in it, you know what I'm saying? But I stand here as a testament to like you can overcome jankiness and you could, you can really, lean into it and have courage with it, because the truth is the people you think know it all, man, is man, I just being in this space and realizing like how these suits are typically shields for knowledge or all this other stuff, where like there's so many people out here that assume somebody knows when so many people out here walking around clueless. And just don't be afraid of what you don't know, and the pandemic has kind of taught me like, to sit down and with the help of the good folk over at the SBDC, man, they've been a huge help, Lauren in particular, like just like, nah, bro, you can do it. It's not as deep as you think it is. So yeah. And along with go ahead. Sorry about that.
No. Continue.
Adapting the product to like a like you say, like a non-tangible space. And like that's something I've always been excited about personally, just figuring out innovative ways to create transactions like in like this theoretical space and like and what the future of that looks like, and knowing that the people who are making the most money like probably don't, or just trying to use our stores as more of, or our locations as experiences that serve as like a flagship store for what we're trying to sell online, like, and making sure that we take just as much care of our virtual presence as we do our tangible presence, if not more, because the audience is bigger. We on the internet, we talking to the, we got to remember them 3 W's. It's the World Wide Web. Like that's the entire universe looking at your product. So opposed to the 200-300 people that may come to your store a week. So it's we want to, you know, tend to those people with as much attention and care. And that's something that I've been more cognizant of, you know, due to the pandemic.
I just wanted to comment on, there was a comment that just posted up that said, thank God for QuickBooks. And I just needed to comment on that in the context of what we have been just discussing in this segment here. And that, yes, hallelujah for QuickBooks, but if you don't know how to use it, you'll be in Jankyville too. I had QuickBooks from day one. I have 5 years of garbage in QuickBooks.
Yes, if you're not putting the information in, exactly. If you're not putting information,
all of my information is in. Yeah. So I'm gonna say I had it from day one, and I was a novice. I'm not an accountant. I'm an economist by academic background, but I am not a bookkeeper nor an accountant. And so I did, you know, they felt expensive when you're, you know, you scrapping with your own budget of, you know, what you pulled out of your savings and your 401k to get your business off the ground. And so if you are not careful, yes, you can have a whole lot of information in QuickBooks, but you can have a whole lot of garbage in there too. And it will cost you because I'm paying for that. But getting cleaner so that I am, you know, out of the QuickBooks Jankyville as well. So you have to always, you know, understand that while you have tools and technology that can work for you, you have to know how it works. And if you don't, you need to find and hire the appropriate resource, adequate or experienced resource to assist you or to take it over, and you learn, but have oversight. So QuickBooks, while it is a cure, because I have data, but there were some things that I did, rookie mistakes, that you know, and not taking certain actions at that time, because I'm in the technician role, and I see it, but I'm like, I'll get to that later. It's all there, so I can do enough I can still file my taxes. All the information is good enough, but you know, it's not great. And then so in order to get to your next level, you know, vision as the entrepreneur, then, you know, there's certain fundamentals that need to be cleaned up. And one of those fundamentals is the money. I just wanted to share that.
And I want to jump in on that one as well. So there's two sides to that story. My janky behavior was, I ain't have none. I just really, like I told y'all, I'm an entrepreneur. All that other, like the managerial part of me just doesn't really exist. And so I hired out, but you can also hire out incorrectly. The new part of me, the CEO, is a YouTube university junkie. The information is out there and in small bites that I can, you know, take, right? So, you know, you have got to have responsibility, whether it's with somebody or without somebody. You have a responsibility to learn about your money. And I'm saying this in a kind of hindsight, where I paid the wrong person initially. Now, I'm never going to do my books, but I have a responsibility to my business to understand my books, right? And to understand what's required to have me in good standing, correct? So, and I'm learning from YouTube. I don't have no whole lot of time, but I will spend time, and don't do one video. If you got a subject, do like 6, 7 videos. You're gonna spend an hour on a subject, but if you get 6 or 7 perspectives, then you can get into a vein where you can learn best practices for yourself and what you want to do. Lauren asked about systems, and they are so important because they will save you time, but it's the hardest thing if you're an entrepreneur like me. Systems are absolutely painful. They're painful for me. I can't tell you how painful. Right now, we are working with this new inventory system that like requires me to, so when you get a cake from Brown Sugar, eventually I'm gonna be able to tell you where the sugar came from, okay? Down to each lot and all of that, which is just like, oh, do I have to? Yes, I have to. And here's what I wanna say about the pandemic. The pandemic ultimately let me know that I wasn't the person who I needed to be to make $100 million a year. So I'm all about becoming the person I need to be. And when you realize and you set some goal for yourself, it's about your business, but it's ultimately about you as an entrepreneur and what you need to do. This is what I'm realizing for myself. So I'm saying this, but I'm saying it to me as I say every day. I gotta be who I need to be. I gotta know what the person who has what I want knows. And that's the gap I gotta fill. And the pandemic just clearly let me know I'm not that girl yet. I'm just not. I'm becoming her every day, but I'm not her yet. And her personality, her habits, the type of system she has. And so I take it less personal. I don't want to do that. Yes, I do. I want to do it. You know what motivates me to want to do it is because I want a company that employs 200 people. And I want these 200 people in the next 2 years. And those 200 people represent so much payroll. And I want to get to $100 million in 10 years. And I can do it, but I can't do it with the knowledge base that I have today. So I have to turn myself into what I want looks like.
So perfect segue. So a couple things. As just to put a final bow on this QuickBooks statement. So I am a finance person, right? Spreadsheets are my love language. Okay. So not, I was say, I'm sure different from everybody else on the call, but like God, they speak to me. Hey, it's my thing. But I fully recognize and appreciate that is not the masses, right? Nicole Jordan said it perfectly as far as QuickBooks and garbage. I always say about QuickBooks and any tool, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you don't quite know, period, garbage in, garbage out, okay? Second, on the learning and the educational piece of it, I just dropped in the chat a YouTube link, if you will. I agree. You don't need to learn your finances and your books to the point to be able to do them, but you do need to understand them way before you go into QuickBooks or anything else. Because one, that's how people can steal from you. Okay, you can write anything down, and I mean they can put anything in the thing, and if you don't actually understand what's happening, they're in charge of your money, not you. But also just conceptually understanding. So I think your SBDCs. I'm gonna throw this on the screen. I'm gonna share my screen. I hope everyone sees the slide that has our contact information on it. I've seen a number of things in the chat as far as how do you get involved? How do you help? And I'm not saying this just in terms of our SBDC, because let me be clear, she stays real booked and real busy, right? But I'm saying as a general SBDC statement, I think they are a really good tool and a resource. There are lots of free resources that are out there, and all of our neighborhoods and communities have them. The city has the BACP. And you have to educate yourself. You have to go. You have to be dogged. Merk mentioned also always learning, seeking, wanting to be a sponge, seeking information. On the screen, is the contact information for ours here at Bill Bronzeville, as well as Greater Englewood. That's our sister station, if you will, and we're doing this in partnership with them all week. But these are two resources, if you will, but there are so many others. The YouTube link I dropped in the chat is to the Bill Bronzeville, to our YouTube channel. Every webinar we've done since, I think, May of 2020 is on there. And there's the one I dropped in the chat is specifically one on intro to understanding what the hell finance is all about, right? in terms of your business. So I definitely want to share that. We need to wrap up. I knew that we were going to be close to 1:30 because I just knew it. As we wrap up, one, there's been, I don't know if you guys have been able to monitor and see the chats. Everyone has been extremely appreciative of all the, as I said, free game that you all have been given, and just being open and honest and transparent. I want to just leave things with, you know, if you today could tell you starting out something, right, to kind of help you not make some of the stumbles that you made, what would that be?
I think I would tell myself, even like the book we talking about that's kind of helped spark the conversation, the E-Myth, like I was in entrepreneurship for forever before I came across that book. And not saying that that book holds something that maybe I didn't hear before. That's just the plate I happen to eat it off of. So, but I think that, you know, if I can tell myself initially, it would be, you know, not rely on just talent and desires and momentum as much as I did early on. I think those things, you know, are very like toxic in regards when it comes to developing a quality infrastructure. And I spent a lot of time relying on my talent and relying on my, you know, just the momentum of things around me, and not, you know, just given an equal amount of, you know, just time, energy, and effort into the entrepreneur, the technician, and the manager. I think, you know, that's probably the best way I could sum it up is, you know, just try not to make these decisions, you know, rooted in these emotional, these emotions, you know, opposed to making them, rooting them in a bit more logic and doing a homework on making sure that these are logistically, you know, sound decisions, which is kind of hard to do, but that's what I would tell myself.
I would say.
I would tell myself, I'm sorry, Nichole.
Oh, go ahead, Steph.
I was just saying, I would tell myself, invest in me. And when I say invest in me, I mean, man, I'm just now getting to the point where I spend on me. You got to keep yourself sharp, up to date. And that doesn't just look like money investment, that looks like time investment. So I literally take time away to invest in me, both mentally and spiritually and business wise. I think the smartest thing I ever did was really start taking command of my morning. You'll see it if you're studying success. I'm going to tell you it's true. I start my morning at 5 a.m. and I do me first, right? Like I get me out of the way. I feed my head, I feed my heart, and then I work out. Because literally, I just told somebody today, man, the workout, I need it. I ran so much in my business and it was good because I got to show people, you think you got me, right? You think I'm old, I can still outwork y'all, right? So, you know, I do me. And so to be an entrepreneur, you really have to take care of yourself. And that's underrated. I would go back and say, girl, take care of yourself. And I'm not talking about getting my hair done, but I am talking about investing in myself mentally, spiritually, and physically.
One big thing I would say to myself is that whoever said that you should not pay yourself when you start your business is a liar from the pit of hell. There's the devil's two-legged helper. Your business is to serve you. Now, you are in service to others, obviously, because you have a paying customer, or you are targeting a profile that will, of an audience that will, you know, like your goods, services, offering, consulting, whatever it is. However, your business is to serve you. And if you are not served in your business, you have a hobby or you have a job, right? We've covered that already. But the thing I would say is work, and I look at this now and I look back at myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, is I put yourself on the payroll. Now, whether you pay yourself $1 a week or $10 a day, create yourself on the payroll, because you have to build yourself into your business, right? Because you got to eat too. I cook food for people, but I got to eat. And as much as I love to be in service to others, the big thing was I was not in service to myself. And that was starting to be detrimental to my business, because if you're not on the books, how do you price your business so that you can be paid too? That's the point. That was a big aha for me. And I do honestly, with all my heart, believe that whoever and the people who say that are liars from the pit of hell. And that's the only thing the only good thing I can say. The other thing, the second thing for me was price. Stand on it and let it be rooted in facts. Like, the one thing you don't want to pull out the air. When I was a consultant, the joke was, and I consulted for many years, you know, when we would tell clients certain things, I'm like, oh, what was that? Oh, that was, we used the WAG method. Wild ass guess. Do not do that with your pricing. You do not want to use the WAG method at all. It has to be rooted in facts. We love to say, you know, the facts, the facts, the facts. Well, this is one fact that will put you out of business, put you in debt, and you will look back and see money left on the table, and then you want to beat yourself up real tough. And so let your pricing be rooted in fact. I learned those lessons as someone, and don't acquiesce. No is a full sentence. Stand on it and add some tax to it. And sometimes your price has to fluctuate because certain audiences need to pay more and maybe some can pay a little less. But that's the truth. But let it all be rooted in facts. That's what I got.
I love that. So Nichole pretty much said it. Find a way to pay yourself first. That was my number one thing that I feel like I neglected. But my second one is find a mentor as well. Find a mentor to help you understand your process and who's been through this and who has some experience in the field.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, so much. Major, huge, very genuine thank you to my panelists, Miss Stephanie Hart, Miss Nicole Jordan, Miss Nicole Jackson, and Merk. You all have been invaluable to all of us, and I know you're all extremely busy. So I am very humbly grateful, as is everyone in the chat. Chat been on fire, saying how dope y'all are. And we appreciate you. So it is 1:32. I'm 2 minutes over what I thought I was gonna be. Everyone, if you have not registered for the rest of the week, please take a look at the rest of the week. Register tomorrow is going to be about finance, about money. I will be watching lovingly from the sidelines. Someone else will be leading it, but it will be much in the vein like today, not a conversation where it's like, this is your balance sheet. It's going to be real people having very straight, no chaser conversation about getting your money mindset right for your business. So we appreciate you. There have been a number of questions in the chat as far as, are you all open to mentors and mentorship? I certainly feel free to answer for yourself, but I'm going to give a blanket answer and say this, I think everyone on here is, accessible and on, social, LinkedIn, etc. I would just put the onus on, folks that are seeking mentorship. do the work, find them, right? Like, you know, it's, I have, mentorship is something that is extremely important. And I believe, you know, in a lot. I find that that people very often look to, they see successful people and it's like, oh, can I join, you know, can I meet you for coffee? Can we have, you know, can you mentor me? And like I said, they're very busy and you get hundreds of those or dozens of those at a time, and people don't uphold their end of the bargain. And it, you know, that's a big investment for someone to make into you, right? So just like they talked about with your business, if you want it, go after it and get it. Right? If you want to be, if you want to connect with some of these folks, every single person on here is quite accessible.
Hey man, y'all got to come bearing fruit, man. Come take out some garbage, sweep the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you got to come bearing fruit. Like, that's we can't operate no other way. Like,
yeah. So, okay. So someone said they got a broom. That's what we're talking about, right? You got to make that investment. So with that, I am going to disconnect. We answered a number of the questions just through conversation. I copied some of them down that we did not answer through conversation, and I will send them to the panelists. We'll get you guys some answers via email. But thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. It is sunny and supposedly almost 80. So
thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Wonderful speaking with everybody.
Thank you,
Yes.
SBDC. Staff, I'm waiting on your call, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Goodbye,
all so
everyone.
much.
Thanks for everything. Bye-bye.